Hey guys, G here at the House of Black Society. If you watched the last video, you thought it was going to take another week before I'll upload another one? No. It's a beautiful Saturday and I actually got some time off after training, so we're going to go into this in depth because this is also another asked question quite a bit that I haven't addressed for various reasons, but today I think I need to because I'm starting to see this as a trend again. So rather than you getting in trouble because you didn't know this beforehand, I want you guys to get it from me so you actually understand the legality on this, so you don't do anything stupid. Alright, let's get on with it. Before we get started, understand this, I'm not a lawyer. If you need a legal advice, hire a lawyer, an attorney, blah blah blah, and yada yada and so on. Watch this for your pure entertainment purposes of me just yabbling on, alright? We'll start with that. Good. So, a lot of students ask me the question, G, I really have a problem getting my bloody blade out into deployment because you do this with certain knives, with practice, you get it done easily for one-handed deployment that you just saw right here. This is something that's called inertia deployment. You see Mr. Michael Janich, shout out to Mr. Janich, he is phenomenal and he is pretty much the person that started to make this a more popular way of deployment. He could do this pretty much with any folders out here. I'd love to see him do that with something as small as a ladybug. I'm pretty sure he can, not a challenge. So, problem is with us mere mortals. Many different ways to deploy. Obviously, you just saw the inertia, call, and the old school Spidey hole drop. So there's that for quick one-handed deployment. There's also many of my students who still do it old school way using the quick Spidey hole thumb deployment or shoot the marble, which works wonders, especially if you follow old school Kelly McCann's teachings and his methodology. But problem is these also takes cognitive notion and practice and extra additional motion, and as Kelly used to have a wonderful saying, which is less is more is less. So problem with something like this, you're required to do more motion in order to get the blade into play when it's needed. So the Dirty Rascals back in the early 2000 to 2000, I say about 2003 to 2008 era, the House of Black Society experimented along with many different companies to come with a medium for this particular task, and one of the idea was these. This is a Kydex Sheath by Bob Hummerbaugh. In the old days, he was the person that all of us used to go to for Kydex and Kydex Sheath. No longer. There's a story behind that. I'd rather not talk about that on the camera, so talk to me when we do and when we train, and I'll be more than happy to explain. So, this one's got a tech lock. Obviously, that means you could have this outside, so on your belt carry. So beauty about this and not so beauty about this is the following things. One, oh god, fuck with this shit. You know, it's just like, oh, it's like a smaller one. So that one's tech lock, best reserved for belt carry. If I was having to put this on my belt, let me do it this way since this is what I typically use when I'm working. No wonder, dumbass, I'm using the fucking wrong belt on this thing. Got a 1.75 inch belt, and this bloody tech lock is set up for 1.5 inch. So none of this will work today, unless beauty about tech locks, things you hate and love. Simply remove that little attachment, and away we go for the rally. There you go. All right, so got it on the belt. Beauty about that is one, facilitates one-handed, very fast deployment, just like a fixed edge. Since, well, you got it in a sheath and it's already in an open configuration. Now, here's a problem with that particular thing. You're doing this and you're carrying it for your purpose, stating for utilitarian that you. Oh yes. Fucking shit. So, problem with this particular method when you're carrying like so is one, you're carrying a blade in a fixed configuration, which is definitely quicker and faster in deployment. No one's gonna argue on that. But the problem is next, if you ever use this in self-defense situations. Now, when I used to work and train students from certain agencies, and those gentlemen were using this similar system, and they would say, well, simply shit happens afterwards. I simply hide the sheath somewhere, and after action report, I'd state, yeah, I used my folding knife, there you go. And you wouldn't display the sheath. But problem with that might fly for your if you're law enforcement and certain agency might let you get away with that shit. But as a civilian, the after action, if you use something like this, you're gonna have to, first of all, there'll be a pat down. I do not know a single LE that will not pat you down after shit like that. And if they find this on you, DA is gonna have a fucking easy win on that one, because all they need to prove is there was an intent for you to do bodily harm to another human being. And though without this, and this in a close manner, this can be argued as my utilitarian knife that I use for everything from my cutting ropes to opening mails. And if the blade is under the legal inches, and once they do forensics testing on it, if they find anything other than what it was just inserted into, like gunk, or if it finds like pieces of tape or whatever, some residue from something like that, it's a utilitarian blade. So you could definitely argue this in case of self-defense, if you actually met the circumstances correctly. Four pillars of self-defense. Check out the Tom Bone video, and it explains everything on that particular front. Now the problem is, if this is in an open configuration and you were carrying this with any intent towards self-defense, under the situation that's not hell on earth, apocalypse, Armageddon, shit hit the fan, we're invaded, blah blah blah. If it wasn't under any of those, and if you're caught carrying it in this manner, if you use it in this manner, and the officer who pats you down after action, after you call the authorities, you are gonna face serious scrutiny at best, and worst case scenario, you will be charged for, if the perp's still alive, it'll be assault with a deadly weapon if you actually use this in that particular manner, because DA will go into the whole fiasco if he's smart, unless you're one of those douchebags who can't really think worth shit, which if you do, then you can thank the Lord because he gave you a really, really easy way out. With this particular system, if a DA does his homework, he can say that whoever blah blah blah, Mr. Johnson meant to do bodily harm onto the human being, because he, instead of having this in his pocket, he carried a specific Kydex Sheath made so he could facilitate for a quicker draw that he could use to do awful, harmful thing onto the human being, just because of certain escalation that went from the verbal to physical. Which is bullshit in my books, but then again, the problem is with the legal system, you have to understand, like I was telling all my students, do not do anything stupid by trying to break the law. Always stay within it. Don't try to bend it. Find the means within the boundaries of the law that'll keep you safe, so you don't have to deal, so you can win all the three fights, not just the first two, okay? Not just the mental, not just the physical, but also the legal fight afterwards in case if there is any. So because of that, this type of method of carry, I highly advise against it. Reason is, if you start carrying it like this, stating that, oh, I'm still carrying a folder's legal, well, I can't carry a fixed edge. True, but the problem is you're still not reading the goddamn RCW, Revised Code of Washington, if you live in Washington State. Because one, What does it facilitate as a deadly weapon? A tool that is intended to do bodily harm unto another human being. That is what a general definition of a deadly weapon is. Alright? It's something that is meant and designated and purposely intended to do bodily harm unto a human being. The blade itself is not something that will be that, especially if it's a folder and small like this. But combine that with something like a Kydex sheath like this, if you carry it like so, with the intent stating that you're carrying this particular method for self-defense. Mental note, never ever ever state to anyone that you're carrying a knife for self-defense where it's not permitted. In Washington State, you're not permitted to carry a knife for self-defense. Thus, you going around stating to everyone that you're carrying two knives, one for utilitarian and one for self-defense, is like saying, please, put the cuff on me right now. So, I want to get this out quick because I'm starting to see a trend. These are from the past relics. You know what I typically carry. And I'll put a review on the next video because many of my students laugh their head off when they come to the house to see me with this particular folder in my pocket. They're like, why the hell would you carry that? Stay tuned on the next one if you want to see that, okay? Stay sharp, be safe.